Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Prediction Strike UFC preview. This week, we've got a very special card coming your way in UFC 314 in Miami, Florida. We've got a very exciting main event. Diego Lopes, I guess not the newcomer technically, but the younger fighter going up against seasoned veteran in Volkanovski. So this should be a fun one. There's lots of value on this card. Let's dive into these fights.
Fight, 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 fight. It's Volkanovski versus Lopez. And is this in Miami?
Yeah.
All right, let's get it rolling. Nora Cornell versus Haley Cowan. Yeah, I don't really have any sort of things to say about this fight. Outside of, guess what? I'm probably picking a decision. Jackson, walk us through what we should know about this fight.
Yeah, so Haley Cowan is coming back after about a 2-year layoff. I'm pretty sure it was just a sort of a mix of a bunch of different injuries that just kind of built up on top of each other, sort of random. But she's back, seems to have taken enough time to be fully back to, obviously, with 2 years. So, and before she left, and she still looks super athletic, but that was kind of the basis of her fight game. Was her athleticism, not the most technical fighter in the world. Pretty solid striker, good takedown defense, cardio's there. Just not very technical, kind of bullied her opponents in her wins. And Nora Cornell is, I would say, the more technical of the two, but she's also pretty, like a lot of aggression, really strong. She's not looking to just get control time or anything or hold you against the cage. She's looking to knock you out. Always working, decent jiu-jitsu, and on the ground, she's looking for subs. Like I said, she isn't looking to control you, and she's coming off a decision loss to Jacqueline Cavalcanti, where she won the first round, but she was just getting pieced up left and right. The striking defense wasn't there. And I think Nora should have this one. It's been a while since Haley Cowan's fought, so maybe there's been some big improvements there, but I think if you just look at it on paper, Nora's the better fighter. All the sketchiness really is on Haley Cowan's side. So I'm going to go Nora, not insanely confident.
All right, well, I'm feeling a little more confident with you. Starting this out with a bang. Nora Cornell by submission. Given the time with the layoffs here, she's been out of the game for 2+ years. Jackson has educated me that that's not particularly great for your UFC experience. And then on top of that, you look at the actual losses she has on the resume. She lost to embodiments of trash cans. So we're going to take our shot there. Grant, you have anything you want to say on this one, or we move to the next?
Nope. I'm aligning with y'all.
All right, on to the next one here. We got Tresean Gore versus Marco Tulio. This looks like a Montoya guy. I'm not going to lie. This fight, how should it go?
Yeah, so we've got one fighter in Tulio who I think is a pretty highly touted prospect going up against Tresean Gore, who's definitely had his ups and downs in the UFC so far. Tulio, basically a striker, and he's good at it, good grappling too. Diverse skill set, I would say. High volume striker. You'll see he lands 5 strikes per minute to 2.68 absorbed. On the ground, he's mostly looking for a submission, decent BJJ off his back, coming off a finish win at UFC Vegas 101. And Tresean Gore, he had a pretty rocky start in the UFC. And I would kind of say that's because he did away with his wrestling. That was a big component of his game that ultimately got him into the UFC. But it seems like after 2 submission wins, he's back in his wrestling ways now. The submissions weren't really the most convincing thing. Like, they were really low, not very technical chokes at all, but he got them. He's just pure aggression. Seems like he's wrestling again. He has heavy hands. He's kind of low volume on the feet. You'll see the strikes landed, the striking differential. But I think if he puts everything together, he actually has a decent chance at winning this one. He used to fight or train with absolutely nobody. In 2025, he picked up and moved to Arizona with his family. He's at MMA Labs with Sean O'Malley, with Jared Cannonier. So he's around much better training partners now. I think if he can and is willing to get the wrestling going with some improved striking behind it, I think he could definitely pull off the upset here. So I'm going with Trayshawn Gore as one of my upset picks.
Grant, you riding the dog, or are you going with Tulio?
Yeah, this one's a tough one. I think this one has a decent chance to go to decision, more so than I think I would have thought going in. I trust Jackson's logic here. I'm not too familiar with either fighters, so I think given the uptick in talent that he's comparing himself to on the daily during camp, and kind of just a more rigorous training scheme with some more talent around him, I'm going to back the underdog as well. I like that logic.
Let's go.
Then I will stand in the face of the chalk and rock with Tulio by knockout. And we'll see what we get there. All right, on to the next one. I have a feeling that there's a meth that could be just fading the Dana White Contender Series prospects when they first
yeah, that might be a trend that's forming here.
Yeah, that might be the trend.
But honestly, I think
Torres Finney won.
Yeah, Torres won. I think,
but that wasn't really a win. Let's be real.
Who else won?
Yeah, it's fair.
But I feel like I will say Contender Series, I think, is the best feeder organization. Like, nobody's good from the Ultimate Fighter or Road to UFC in Asia. Like, Contender Series is probably the best feeder organization. But
would you rather have a dude come from like a different promotion who moves over when he's 25, or have a dude come from Contender Series?
I think it's definitely like people who come over from other organizations when they're already established. That, like, if we were to look back on it, probably higher volume of those guys becoming good ranked fighters. Yeah,
agreed.
But yeah, is the next one our boy Cedric's?
Nah, we got Sumoderji versus Mitch Raposo.
Sumoderji.
Isn't Sumoderji kind of a trash can, or am I wrong?
I mean, he's not the best. He doesn't have much power at all for being a striker.
He's the favorite.
He's really high volume, 4.72 to 3.09. And he can get stoppages because of that volume. It's not going to be like a one-punch knockout, but he could definitely get stoppages. He can get decisions over most people who aren't willing to wrestle with him too. He has good movement on the feet, definitely bounces in and out well. But he is coming off his third loss in a row to Charles Johnson, where he got dropped and then subsequently out-wrestled there. And Mitch Raposo is a guy from New England Cartel. Good gym, generally. It's Rob Font's gym. A good region for prospects as well. And he has good boxing, just good striking in general with some grappling issues, but he's definitely improving. He's very young. He's only 26. And I think he's definitely a good prospect. He lost on Contender Series and on the Ultimate Fighter to Andre Lima. He is really clean striking, but he is a little bit hittable. I think this is going to be a tough one to call, but I'm going to go with another underdog here in Mitch Raposo, I think. He's been grinding from what I've seen. Took about 9 months off to kind of just get right. So I think we're probably going to see some improvements. I'm going to go with Mitch Raposo, 2 dogs in a row.
Yeah, I was going to do the same thing as well. Sumoderji is coming off a bit of a loss streak, and I think Raposo looked pretty good in his last fight, even though it was a loss to Andre Lima. I was more impressed with how he looked in his loss than how Sumoderji has looked during his loss streak to not a super impressive group of fighters either. So I'm going to back the value here as well.
Agree. And I think one thing I forgot to mention was I do think this could just be a clean striking match, but if one of these guys were to make this like a firefight, it would be Mitch Raposo and not the other way around. Like, he can definitely outdog Sumoderji.
Did we like Daniel Barres? I want to say we did.
Which fight?
Against Andre Lima, because I'm with you guys on the Mitch Raposo side here. I just want to, it's kind of what you guys are saying. Like, this kid is probably a bit undervalued. Losing split decision always, like, it's probably going to be a genuine coin flip more often than not. So, yeah, I think Vegas has this one wrong. We'll see what happens there. We'll go with decision. We'll say they make it to the distance. All right.
You're on Raposo as well, though?
Yep. We're making it chalky. We're getting a little thick over here. On to the next one.
We've done pretty well with those upset picks that we're all on.
Yeah.
I feel like we've had a pretty good track record with those. So
this is true.
Like
Bring up the units. All right. Cedricus Dumas versus Michael Olechuk. Yeah. Jackson, walk us through us. You're probably the closest with our boy here, so you probably know the most.
Yeah, I do. So just want to I do think Cedric has the ability to win this fight, and I think he definitely has the skills to make it interesting here. He is coming off a win over a striker in Dennis Tulin, where his wrestling got it done, and that's kind of exactly what he needs to do here. Michael O is a really good striker. He has a great chin, good technique. And in his last fight, he's come off a decision, lost to Shara Bullet, who we know is a good striker, but he ended up trying to out wrestle him. Didn't work. So, I mean, if you just put 1 and 2 together, Cedric has been wrestling a lot more. His technique gets better every fight. You can see that he's not just sparring. He's putting in actual training hours. He's getting better at grappling. He's getting better at wrestling and shooting straight takedowns. But I'm honestly a big believer that Michael O is underrated. He's had trouble recently, a good amount of trouble, but he is a really powerful striker. He's got super fast hands, 6 knockouts in his 7 UFC wins, really dangerous on the feet, but he does have grappling holes. He does gas a little bit as the fight progresses. So I think there is a way for Cedric to win this. Michael O is at Fighting Nerds now too, which is another important note. So he's obviously around a great team consistently. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Michael O, I think, but I really do think Cedric can get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to just back our guy. He's more exciting as well. And Michael did lose to Kevin Holland somewhat recently, which has proven to be not the greatest thing to have on your record as of late. He did win his last fight though, so shout out to Kevin. But I feel like it's usually kind of part-time fighters and dudes that aren't incredibly locked in that usually are the ones that Kevin has taken down as of late. So I'm going to rock with Dumas. I think the potential is more there.
Let's go.
On his side.
Yeah, I think what's going to be a really fun, I mean, it's a great investment on PredictionStrike, but what's going to be a fun prop bet when it comes out is Cedric's takedowns. I feel like if that line is at like 0.5, that's going to be a really, really solid play.
Yeah, I think sprinkling that, like, obviously I'm always going to be like, submission! But, like, I generally think this is probably the best spot to take a shot like that on Dumas. It just seems like his genuine path to victory here. But kind of what Jackson said, like, I don't know. To me, this feels like a trap by Vegas, if you will, to put you on to Dumas. So I'm going to go with Michael O by knockout. Yeah. All right. On to the next one. We're going to go with Darren Elkins versus Julian Erosa. I want to say, if I remember correctly, Jackson was a very big fan of Darren Elkins and the absolutely beast in his last fight he talked about.
Yep, that is true. Thank you, Wells. We did call the Darren Elkins upset over Daniel Pineda in his last fight. He had 3 takedowns in that one. Looked absolutely gritty as always. And he's coming out here, I think it's around a 3-1 dog versus Erosa elsewhere. So if you're on the Elkins side of things, you're not getting the most amazing price in the world on PredictionStrike. But Erosa, on the other hand, is a great investment relative to the odds in the books. And Elkins is just a super durable guy. You know exactly what you're getting from him. He's going to come forward, throw bombs, cut off the cage, and then try to get you to the ground to start working in the wrestling and the grappling. And Erosa, 6'1", long guy for 145. Uses that length pretty well, both on the ground and on the feet. You can see he lands 6.18 strikes a minute, absorbs a few more, but he's at high output for sure. He's definitely a bit hittable. And he is coming off of a guillotine win, his second guillotine win in a row against Christian Rodriguez. And I think these odds are kind of crazy. Elkins has a good shot at winning it. So I think the prediction strike numbers make a lot more sense here. I think it should be a lot closer. He is super old, but he looks great still. Like, I don't really see him slowing down. He's all dog too. So I think he can get it done. I'm going to go with Erosa though, just because I mean, he has Erosa has good BJJ off his back. We could even see a sub. Elkins went to decision with Jonathan Pierce, and he's even older now. And I kind of compare Jonathan Pierce to Julian Erosa, and I think he can get it done. He's just so hit or miss, and Elkins is so consistent, which makes me worried about this one. So I'm just going to go with Erosa decision, but I'm not confident. Like, I totally think Darren the Damage Elkins can get it done.
Yeah, this was kind of a spot where I feel like I'd eyed up too many underdogs out of the gate, where this one just felt like I was going to side with the Erosa side of things. Elkins is obviously a great wrestler and can hold his own down there, but I do think he's playing with fire a little bit with a guy that is capable of fighting towards a submission, which just kind of makes things more dicey, kind of makes you hesitate a little bit when your game plan is trying to get someone to the ground, because you know that the other person could also end the fight once it gets down there. So I think just that little edge, plus potentially a bit better on his feet, is just the edge that I'm going to side with on the Erosa side.
Yeah, I'm rocking with you guys. I'm going with Erosa by decision here. Think Elkins can get to the distance, but based off the math that Jackson's saying, should have a similar result. All right, Jim Miller versus Chase Hooper. Yeah, the prices definitely are different than what the market is telling us. So walk us through it.
So this is a great, probably, I would say, just value-wise, the best investment on the card would be Chase Hooper. Chase is what, 10-1 favorite elsewhere, Wells?
I think it's 7-ish, but
Not
yeah.
7-ish. Okay. Well, yeah, so you're getting about even prices on Chase Hooper, so that's a pretty easy buy. And I do think Chase wins this. Jim Miller is definitely scary at these odds. Like, I think it's worth a sprinkle elsewhere. But here, I mean, I would totally buy Chase Hooper shares. He's a really slick grappler, has been using striking more and more each fight. It's been getting better. Definitely more of a mixed martial artist these days. He destroyed Clay Guida. And Jim Miller is super old, obviously super savvy, good grappler, very clean boxing, tons of power, has had some nasty knockouts in his career, and seems to be defying his age. He's coming off a submission win over Damon Jackson, where he won that with a guillotine. And Hooper is a huge favorite here. I think odds that would make sense for this one would be like probably 4-1. Yeah, I would say probably 4-1. These odds are crazy, but so I am going with Chase Hooper. I think he has earned being a big favorite in this one, but I don't know. Jim Miller can definitely catch people still at this age.
Yeah, I'm just setting in Hooper and forgetting it. I think this is by far the best place to take it, though. Elsewhere, it's going to be nothing but a booster probably to whatever else, unless you're trying to pinpoint an exact round or something like that. But I like Hooper on PS.
Yeah, I'm just going to go with Hooper by decision. I think there's 100% a world where he could get the knockout or something like that, because it's like, well, you have Jim Miller with the decision with Bobby Green, and Bobby Green's clearly a fish at this point in his career. I don't
If
know.
you like decision, you could probably get good juice on that and make it not so crazy at 850.
Yeah. But overall, what you've been hearing here is that he's the best investment on PredictionStrike. So download the app if you haven't already, and subscribe. You're already this far along. We're about 20 minutes in. Subscribe. Tell Jackson something you like about him, and tell Grant your favorite Pokemon.
And let us know which of the three of us has the most punchable face.
100%. All right. Jan Xiaonan versus Verna Yandaroba. So I actually was looking at my phone last night, kind of looking at the page a little bit. I was like, all right, let's get a little bit of a look at. Why is Jan the dog? I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this fight.
So, I mean, I think I really honestly like the odds elsewhere where they're at for Verna. I think I totally like her at 10.27 versus 12.98. And it's just a stylistic thing. Jan is obviously not bad at all. Really good boxer. Nice striking, works angles well, just very technical, also can bang it out. We've also seen grappling improvements, but her win over Tabitha Ritchie was pretty straightforward, but Ritchie was able to take her down. And that's pretty much where I'm like, if Tabitha Ritchie, who basically has zero wrestling skills, is able to take down Xiaonan, Verna is literally going to look like a Dagestani. I think she's going to get a dominant decision win here by coming forward, getting it to the ground the entire fight. And that's pretty much just how I view it.
Yeah, Ritchie wasn't very impressive in that fight either. Wasn't super active, didn't do a whole lot. So I think given the fact that she was able to get takedowns during her limited active period says a lot. And you get a spot with Honda Roba, who is a much more skilled attacker in the ground game, obviously. I don't know if a submission is super likely here, Wells, but I feel like that could be where you're headed here. But I like the Honda Roba side of things for sure.
I'll be alone on an island with my Chinese dog, Yan Shaonan. In which case, we're going to go with decision. I just think that, like, yeah, it's probably what you guys are saying, since it's just going to be a massive decision win or submission or something like that because of the technicalities of this.
Seems right.
I'm just going to go with my gut here, follow the resume, and see if Jan can take us to the promised land.
Seems right.
There's definitely a gap on the feet too, so
could happen.
On to the next one. We've got Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. What should we expect out of this fight?
This should be a good fight. I'm always so mad at the matchmaking they give to Sean Woodson because he's not that good, but he's always getting matched up against fighters that are just great matchups for him. I think this is kind of no different. Dan Ige, he's an absolute dog in my opinion. Really good kickboxer, super powerful, good BJJ. He's just good everywhere. Takedown defense on paper, not the best at 57%, but pretty much everyone who fights him tries to take him down. So really durable. You definitely need all the cardio in your tank to beat him, or most fighters do. Coming off a decision loss to Lerone Murphy, where he actually rocked Lerone pretty early into that fight. Lerone was just able to recover there, take over. And Sean Woodson, he is really long for 145 at 6'2", 78-inch reach. He was a boxer before he transitioned into MMA. You could definitely tell manages distance on the feet super well with those long arms. Has really good hands. He's also another guy, just like Dan Ige, that a lot of his opponents try to take down, except on his side of things, he has 84% takedown defense, leverages his length really well there. Especially for coming from boxing and not having trained MMA his whole career. And he's coming off a knockout loss versus Chris Padilla. I think Sean Woodson should win this. I'll definitely acknowledge that Dan Ige is a dog. He's just a better striker. I think he's going to be able to keep this at range. So I'm going with him by decision.
Yeah, like Sean Woodson as well. I feel like we're lining up pretty heavily throughout this card so far. I think Dan may have a slight edge when it comes to the wrestling world of things, but I just trust Sean Woodson's ability to kind of separate and get towards the decision in this one, stay out of harm's way, and finish out the job.
You know what? I think I'm going to make a change. I think what we're going to do here is we're going to go with Verna by decision. We're going to go take Ige on an island instead, by decision.
I think that's a safer island to be on, probably.
I think it's much better as well, because it's just like, what are the chances we have a fraud check show up at some point? Like, I don't know, man. You guys just aren't selling me on Woodson. You just aren't selling me.
Yeah, I don't think Woodson's that good, yeah.
I mean, we picked, like, or at least I think Jackson and I picked 3 straight underdogs to start the card, so we've been fraud checking some boys to start, but
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I'm gonna take Ige.
I like
Going the distance with Leo Murphy, Diego Lopes, the frontliner of this car, potentially taking another massive step forward, and then Bryce Mitchell, who I think we're honestly probably going to be talking about as a fraud, to be honest, soon enough. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if Ige can get it done, but that is a island I'm taking. So if you're like, oh, he was on Yan Chanan, no, we left that island. We hopped onto a new one. We're on Perna for the decision. Ige.
Let's go.
So with that said, we move on to Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. Yeah, some names we should all be familiar with, but Jackson, walk us through their names.
Yeah, definitely some names that most people who have been watching the UFC for a while will know. These guys have been around forever. It's been a while since we've seen a Krylov fight. But he, before his layoff here, he was a super well-rounded guy, particularly good wrestler, nice striking, brings forward pressure, averages more than 2 takedowns a fight, and they're solid straight takedowns too, explosive. And his last fight was a very, very impressive win over Volkan Ozdemir, but that was about 2 years ago. He had 7 takedowns in that one. And Dominic Reyes, former title challenger, his whole career is basically almost beating John Jones, but he's gotten a couple wins under his belt recently after getting knocked out a bunch of times in a row. He beat Dustin Jacoby. He beat Anthony Smith. And he is long for this division at 6'4" with a 77-inch reach. He is a bit. He's well-rounded. He can do all the things, but he's a particularly good grappler. Only 28% takedown accuracy, which is really bad. 80% takedown defense. And Krylov is a good wrestler, like I said. I think layoffs tend to impact wrestlers a lot less than they do strikers, and I think he could have even just been grinding during that time. Both of these guys have fought some really good fighters. Nikita, even his losses are all super high quality, and he's just been the far more consistent fighter of these two, I think, despite the layoff. So I'm going to go with Nikita Krylov. I think if he could apply the pressure, work in the wrestling enough, I think he wins this one pretty straightforwardly.
I finally get to fade Jackson. It took long enough.
Let's go.
I like Reyes in this one. I think the takedown defense can hold up just enough. You mentioned that he's a what if against John Jones merchant, and he definitely can be. But I think his ability to kind of stifle takedowns against what was close to a peak athletically John Jones is telling of something. I mean, that was a long time ago, but still, it just shows that he's capable of stifling off takedowns against superior athletes and things of that nature, which I think is going to be important in this fight. It's kind of the only way I see Krylov getting this one done is by submission or just kind of stalling this one out on the ground. I think if it's more standing and Reyes can kind of hold off those takedown attempts, I think he should be able to get it done here, whether it's by a finish or by decision. Haven't decided on the exact method yet, but that's kind of the fight script I'm working with or planning out in my head. So I'm going to rock with the Reyes side here.
Yeah, the resume is really interesting here with Reyes because what you guys are saying, but it's a hard one to read as well because it's like Nikita's coming off of a layoff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part of this that I hate.
Yeah. It would make it a lot easier if it was like he had just beat Ozdemir like a couple months ago.
Yeah, that's
sure.
what
I mean, he is younger, I guess, if that helps you, but
yeah, I think I'm gonna take another shot on a dog. Why not? We'll go with Reyes by decision. I'm just not sold on Krylov here. So,
looks like I found myself I'll go Krylov myself to sleep on my island.
Oh no. All right, on to the next one. We've got Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva. The prices are definitely appealing if you're on PredictionStrike. But outside of that, Jackson, walk us through it.
Yeah, I think John Silva is a really sharp investment on PredictionStrike. You're getting really good prices here, especially considering how absolutely terrible the odds are for this fight elsewhere. We've got Bryce Mitchell sitting at, I think, like a 2.5 to 1 dog right now. And I just think that's crazy. I think you could probably make an argument for Bryce Mitchell being a favorite in this fight. And I do think however this fight goes is kind of going to reflect that. Like if Bryce wins, it's probably going to be pretty one-sided. If Jean wins, it's going to be the exact opposite, and it's going to be one-sided on his side. And we know how it's going to go. Bryce is a super good grappler, averages 3.4 takedowns a fight, basically does not entertain the striking at all, just dives at legs. And he destroyed Kron Gracie, but Kron is basically just a pure grappler, fights once every 7 years, so not too impressive at all. Jean, we also know who he is, super fun, bouncy, creative striker, spinning attacks, also super technical, and can fight in the pocket when he wants to. Really good job of investing in the body, also lights up the head with kicks, coming off his 4th knockout in a row against Melsik Bagdasaryan. And yeah, I'm going to pick Jean Silva here, especially on PredictionStrike. I mean, Jean was able to get it done after getting taken down 3 times by Charles Jourdain. And I do think that in itself is an issue that he was able to get taken down 3 times by Charles Jourdain. But I do think he's eventually going to be able to get back up. I think the gap in the striking department is probably a bit wider than the gap is on the ground. So, yeah, I mean, if I would heavily caution you to stay off of this fight in the books if you're on the Jean side of things. If you're on the Bryce side, why not? But Bryce doesn't really train MMA at all. So I at least like to see the fighters I bet on train. So just invest in Jean Silva on PredictionStrike, I think, is my opinion.
We could be in for some crazy post-fight interviews if Bryce Mitchell finds his way towards a win in this one. But I'm on the Jean Silva side of things as well. I think I may touch a first-round KO in this one. I think his best shot is probably coming out sharp and explosive and just trying to really push this fight on his feet before Bryce Mitchell kind of gets comfortable and is shooting all those takedowns in the later rounds. So I'm trusting the bigger gap in the striking department, like you touched on, and I just think he's far more explosive and capable of a finish in this one. So while Mitchell could fight towards a submission as well, I just think the KO is more likely. And if this one is going to end by a finish, which it seems like it's projected to odds-wise, I think that the knockout is more likely on the Silva side of things.
Yeah. As much as I would love to say that Bryce Mitchell is going to have a very fun speech post-fight, just going to rock with Jean Silva by decision. I do think that, like, if I were to put money on an alternate market, I would put some sort of, like, either prayer between the two of them after the fight. I think would be a fun one to take, or them going at each other, like talking some
prayer
after the fight. It's really one or the other.
Post-fight prayer.
Dude, that I at media day
I kind of
today,
see what you're.
Yeah, like it's. I don't know. That just feels the vision that I'm getting there. But we're gonna go with Jean Silva by decision. I think the crowd. Like, I'm trying to weigh what do the people like really expect to happen. I do think a knockout is extremely live.
Yeah.
Because it's the flip of the coin of like, is Bryce Mitchell going to get fully fraud checked, or is he actually like a decent enough contender to get this to the distance?
Yeah. When we post our prediction graphic, can we please have Wells's prediction for this fight just be post-fight prayer?
Dude, Bryce Mitchell today at media day was literally just reading out Bible quotes.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Like,
sweet.
I don't know. I went to school with a lot of people like this when I was young, so I'm just like, the Bible is going to be everywhere for this kid. He's walked out with it before, right?
Yeah,
He totally has. Yeah, he's 100% doing it again. He's gonna have a verse that he's gonna read out before they fight. Calling it now. All right, Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. Not the singer, the fighter. Walk us through it.
Dale.
Grant, you want to lead us into this one?
Yeah, I am definitely a Yair fan, so keep that in mind. But I am going to be backing Yair in this one. Pitbull is a fun debut fighter in this one. I just feel like it's kind of a situation like we saw with an MVP or someone like that, where it's probably just a few years too late, and he's a little bit past his prime. A super fun fighter and definitely can hunt submissions. He's great on the ground. but I just feel like he is a little bit past it. If this fight happened 4 years ago or something, I may analyze it differently, but I think Yair's advantage on the feet here is great. It's a height and reach advantage for him as well, which I feel like will allow him to kind of keep his distance, but also kind of find his moments to get kind of in the clinch and throw some powerful punches in this one. So I think just the reach advantage and kind of the veteran UFC presence here on the Yair side of things is just going to lead me in that direction.
Yeah, we were talking about this one a little bit before, and I've been going back and forth on it, just because I do think there's truly a good chance that Yair just gets it done early in this one. Patricio is such a grinder, though, and that's why I've been going back and forth. And I think I'm going to go with the dog in this one, even though just like Grant, I'm a big Yair fan. I do think he has a lot of potential, but I'm going to go with the Pitbull in this one. He's not exactly the most well-known name to UFC fans, but he has had a pretty crazy career. He's fought and defended his belt in Bellator 16 times. At 145, which is the weight this fight's going to be at, Pitbull has not a single loss that he didn't get his get back on since 2010. That's 15 years of never having an unavenged fight at 145. And Yair it's crazy. And Yair just gasses too. He's kind of a quitter. He definitely at least has that quit in him. He slows down when he's getting pressured. He's also been taken down in almost all of his 14 UFC fights. Lost his last 2 because of it. So I think if this gets out of the first round and a half, I think there's a pretty clear path to victory for Patricio, and that's just applying pressure, making it a long night for Yair, and just breaking him like he's been broken before by the wrestling, by the forward pressure. So love Yair, but I'm going with the dog and Patricio.
Interesting. I get to split the divide. Yeah, this is definitely a more interesting one from what you're saying, because it's like I've gotten caught in this trap of just going after the hot new thing way too many times, getting fascinated by the shiny cars here. So I'm just going to rock with Yair by decision. Like Jackson has explained, like there is plenty of life in Pitbull, and not just in the songs. So invest accordingly. This is going to be a fun fight. From what it sounds like, we're more than likely going to get fireworks of some variety. So be excited. We're going to be having a lot of fun here in Miami. Maybe the actual Pitbull will show up.
Miami.
Yeah. This is a super good test for Yair, I think. And it's sad too, because I feel like if Yair does win, people are going to be like, oh, it was a debut fighter. But I do think this is actually like a great test for Yair.
For sure.
100%. Like, I think, would you potentially put him as like a title shot after this type of fight if he gets like a finish of some variety for Pitbull?
I think Yair probably has the talent to do it. It's not like immediately after this or anything, or like it would probably take more than a couple fights. But I do think Yair is talented enough. I just think he needs to, because it's athleticism that's the problem. Oh, Pitbull. No, but they're definitely going to give him probably a ranked fighter after this.
Okay, I like it. All right, on to the next one. Grant, slowly but surely, I've started forming a man crush on Tom Aspinall.
Yeah.
The way he talks about fighters, I'm just like, fuck, this guy knows ball.
Yeah,
like,
Tom Aspinall's sick.
I just can't, like, the way he was describing Paddy Pimblett, I was just like, shit, like, I see the vision. But before I go over the top here, Jackson, walk us through what we should know about this fight.
Yeah. So, I mean, not big personalities, but big names in the UFC. One kind of bigger personality than the other. Michael Chandler is just a good dude, really. He is technically a good wrestler on paper, doesn't really do it anymore, prefers to strike, is kind of going for the bonus these days, I'd say, more than anything, just throws bombs. He'll wrestle sometimes, but it's not like you can count on him to wrestle. And he's had some of the most exciting fights in the UFC against big names. If he used his takedowns more, I think he could have a lot more general success and maybe actually be close to the belt at this age, but he doesn't. He just prefers to bang it out with you. And He was a D1 wrestler, but we just saw Charles Oliveira come in and out wrestle him, shooting takedowns, landing them on him. So it's I do not rely on him to do that at all. Paddy the Baddy, really well-rounded guy, has some experience under his belt at this point. Definitely a little bit hittable at 3.75 absorbed a minute, but striking is improving. Good grappling, just nice movement on the ground, transitions well, works the angles. Definitely think he could be a big name. I mean, he already is a big name, but big name based on, overall ranking in the UFC in years to come. He got that armbar over Bobby Green most recently, where Bobby Green just shot a takedown for some reason, and that's basically what lost him the fight there. Chandler's 38 now. I don't think he's definitely past his peak. He's still really exciting, but nowhere near the belt, kind of like I said. And I don't think he's going to wrestle enough here because he would need to do that in order to get a win against Paddy the Baddy, who's going to be probably the better, cleaner striker, faster, younger, maybe not as powerful, but and he can obviously get the wrestling going on his side. So I'm pretty big on Paddy the Baddy to win. Yeah.
Yeah, Jackson's kind of convinced me on that side of things. It feels like Michael Chandler is kind of just in it for a payday at this point and is somewhat checked out. I was still surprised to see Paddy be a favorite. Obviously, get some decisions to go his way at times as well, which is helpful in any situation in a close fight like this. Yeah, I mean, it just feels like a situation where Chandler's wrestling is great, but Paddy is capable of ending fights on the ground more so than Chandler is. So Chandler's probably going to have to be standing, and then you just kind of never know what happens in that situation when they're kind of at odds there. It just feels like if this one does get on the ground, I trust Paddy's ability to finish this one far more than I trust Michael Chandler's ability to kind of navigate the ground scope in this fight. So Jackson has swayed me to get on the Paddy side.
Yeah, I'm a rock with Paddy by decision. I thought about chasing the sub here, definitely live. I'm not convinced that Paddy is as great as we're kind of saying he is, realistically. But no. I also know that Michael Chandler, the resume sounds better than it actually is for him.
Yeah, just a bit over the hill.
And he is built to go the distance more often than not. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. So we will be moving on to the next one, but we'll see how the Scouts does. Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. Slight dog for Lopes, but massive price discrepancy here. What should we be expecting out of this legendary kind of matchup? I want to say Diego Lopes was somebody that Jackson was on from the start of his career.
This feels like a great value on this card as well.
Yeah, I'm on the team Diego here. Been team Diego for a while, and I think this is just kind of. It's not that I think he's a better fighter than Volk even. I think Volkanovski, if we're just looking at things skill for skill, and he didn't just get knocked out in his last two fights, I think Volk could probably be a 5-1 favorite if you're just looking at on paper skills. Diego is not nearly as good of a striker as him. And Volk can really do everything. He has great cardio. Looks like he still has great cardio. His biggest flaw is that he's just getting old, getting knocked out. And before he stepped up against Islam, he was still looking amazing. And then just got knocked out a few times. Lopes, really dangerous grappler, coaches the likes of Alexa Grasso, Lupi Godinez. So high-level fighters that he's actually the grappling coach of. Very talented. Offensive wrestling definitely leaves a little bit to be desired, but the BJJ is super dangerous. The striking is crazy and also dangerous. Looks for finishes all the time. Throws and combos, pretty technical when he wants to be. Coming off a really dominant win over Brian Ortega. So, yeah, Volk better skill for skill. The cardio and the pressure, everything like that are still there for him, I think. And Diego does fade a little bit into fights. Obviously, he's still young. He's improving his cardio. That's one thing that you actually can improve. So hopefully it looks better here. But I mean, I think it's going to be a Diego Lopes knockout within the first, or knockout or sub finish in the first 1 or 2 rounds is the most likely outcome here. So I'm going with Diego Lopes. I do think if it gets Late into the fight, though, Diego could be in some trouble because Volk has been there so many times before. He's got such good cardio. Diego, cardio has been kind of one of his inconsistencies in the past. So I'd be very, very worried if you have money on Diego Lopes and this goes into the third or fourth round of the fight.
I do think there's potentially some value on the Lopes side by decision, just because if you think he stacks up the first 3 rounds and then maybe gasses a tad, but is still able to kind of hold his own, you could get extra juice on that, because this is a fight where the decision is probably going to be higher odds in your favor than a finish inside the distance would be. So I do kind of like that. I'm tempted by that a bit. My thought process on this, as much as Volk is one of my favorite ever fighters, it just feels like a situation where if you take Volk and he loses, you're going to be far more upset with yourself than if you took Lopes and he loses in this one. Volk just feels like he's past his prime, and I mean, Lopes, I don't think is quite the caliber of fighter that Volk was, especially in his prime, obviously, but it just feels like a situation where you got to back the more explosive guy who's more in the prime of his career off a good win streak as well. So I think it's just going to be less stress-free on that side.
I think I know who else is taken.
Respect.
You better take cover. I mean, come on. We're going to the deep waters with Volkanovski, man.
I kind of would have liked for you to pull up with some Brazilian, like, cha cha.
Yeah.
Hey.
That would be electric. Yeah, I mean, it could very well be a case of the titles are changing, essentially. Volkanovski gets just clobbered, and it's over real quick. Would not be surprised. But I think he's going to a new role in his career, in which case he's going to start to become I wouldn't say a fraud checker, but what do you call it? Like, what was Neil Magny?
Prospect killer?
Not prospect killer. What was Neil Magny known as for a while? Like the gatekeeper or something like that?
Yeah. Like from the higher ranks. Yeah.
Essentially, yeah. Like, I think that's what his new role is going to be here. If you do see the lines move over to Diego Lopes as the favorite, just know my side is cooked. But yeah, I'm rocking with Volk by decision here. The amount of just legacy essentially is on the line. So we'll see. Yeah. With that said, though, I think that is all we have. So you guys know what to do. Place your post-prayer props for the Bryce Mitchell fight. Invest accordingly. Subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure that you told Grant your favorite Pokemon character. And until next time, we hope you all have a great day. Subscribe, once again, if you haven't already. Deposit if you haven't already, because you get $200 when you deposit $10 in bonus cash. That's a pretty dang good deal, I think so. And yeah, Jackson, Grant, anything before we roll on out of here?
Nah.
All right. With that said, invest accordingly, fade, tail, have a great day, and until next time, peace, y'all.
Peace.
Booyakasha.